Organissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.organissima.com. Organissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty. Organissima, New York.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to the iHealth channel, the Fit and Fab channel, iHealth Radio, where your host, Hurricane H. As always, new guest, new topic, and an interesting topic because you've heard the expression of mind over body and mindset and all that stuff. But we always think fitness is a physical element, and we always tend to want to be fit and look fit and all that stuff. That's the Fit and Fab channel here. but really, we never think about our mind fitness. I mean, think about, how can the mind be fit, right? And today, we will tackle and address that particular topic with a specialist, someone who knows this business and does this for a living, coaching, mentoring, and inspiring others to really get their mind so fit that they can live a happy life. And so without any further ado, I want to introduce my guest, Darcy Luoma, and she is the CEO of Darcy Luoma Consulting and Coaching. And she has tremendous experience and expertise in really training people, teams, corporations, and leadership and corporations, things like that. So she's been doing a lot of work over the years. And prior to that, she has a whole experience with politics and different things, campaigns, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So Darcy, welcome to the show, and thank you for being with us today.
It's such a pleasure to be joining you. Thank you.
Well, hey, thank you. I mean, it's your time. We've been looking for this. I know we had to reschedule this, from the summer, but listen, we're here, and that's what matters. People actually got to be listening and watching. And I think this topic today is important for multiple reasons. We all get stressed out in life, and there's so many factors that affect us, period. And, in the business world, more than, same business world, family, all the stuff, the world right now gets us stressed with everything going on, right? And dealing with all this, is important, right? And we're going to really address the topic of getting fit in the mind and all that. And so before we go, can you tell us a little bit about your story, your journey, and what got you into this and all the good stuff you've done over the years?
Absolutely. I spent basically 20 years of my career, the first 20 years in politics. So I worked for a couple of national advance teams, presidential campaigns, a governor's office, worked for a U.S. senator for 12 years. And I saw a lot of people not handling themselves thoughtfully, including myself. I didn't always handle protesters. They were staging die-ins and lobbyists that were advocating for what they wanted, and I didn't always handle myself the best. So when I transitioned in 2013 from the political world, I launched my business focused on creating high-performing people and teams. That was my true passion. I decided that was my mission. I wanted to help people to be thoughtfully fit so that they could handle themselves thoughtfully in any situation and get better results, and then also be able to get back to doing what they do best instead of reacting impulsively in the moment and adding fuel to the fire and making things worse. Or silently stewing and then getting resentful. I decided that this is what I wanted to dedicate my life and this chapter of my life to. So I have been focused on coaching and consulting, and I do a lot of keynotes and public speaking all around developing that mental fitness and being able to strengthen that muscle to handle yourself thoughtfully, no matter the adversity, the conflict, the unpredictability, the challenges that life brings our way.
Wow. Well, listen, we got to dive into this. So first things first, I mean, 20 years in politics, that's got to be brutal. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I've seen politicians and their teams working, and it's not, I mean, I have to say, it's not a real good life. It's tough. I mean, they're running back. When I say good life, I mean, it's just like they just don't have a life because they live the politics, and especially around the campaign time. I mean, you're just running long hours, and you have to go to this lobby at this place, this caucus, whatever. You got to jump from one place, no sleep, and I know that's going to take a toll on everybody. And to your point, and plus you deal with all the opposition, this, that, all the different scenarios that can possibly happen in one campaign. So again, I've attended a few of those caucuses and campaign trails, and it's and I've actually seen politicians at work, and it's hard. And again, I think it's harder for the staff because the people that make it work are there before and after and making sure everything is in place. So that 20 years, it's got to take a toll on anyone. And so I believe that was a good reason for you to move away and take that whole, experience and kind of turn it around, right? So that was a great piece of it. You were going to say something, by the way. Did I cut you off there? You wanted to say something?
No, I was just going to highlight exactly and underscore what you're saying, that it's hard being in politics. And I feel like now it's even exponential with the social unrest and the protests and the Black Lives Matter, and the country's even more divided. There's even more of a need to find that compassion for others.
Well, you're right. And again, these are people, and it's run it's business like, it's got its own components, and people do get stressed, and it does affect the way they behave. And you're right, sometimes they may not be able to handle everybody around them correctly, and you can snap at people. You can have issues. It's not again, you have to be careful. Media's out there, everybody's watching pictures. Now with social media, it's even worse. Like, you can't make a wrong move can cost you. So I to be honest with you, I would not put my head in any politics. I don't care what. That's not my cup of tea. And I got to give them credit. I mean, these people are made for it, and they can handle it, to each his own, as they say, right?
That's right.
but you're right. I mean, you can help people, can at least adjust and adapt and be able to be fit to do these things. And not just politics, I'm talking in general. So then you decide to go on your own. Now, that could have been at the time scary. I mean, going in business for your own is always tough. And I mean, it's been a minute since you made the move. You're still doing it, and it's obviously successful. You've done a great job. But what was that transition for you, just to get people closer to because that's important, I think, to set people up even in their mind.
Oh, it was such a big transition because everybody assumed. So the senator I had been working for 12 years announced that he was not going to seek re-election. He was retiring. And so that meant I was seeking a new job, right? And I assumed, my colleagues, my spouse, friends and family all assumed I would stay in politics. That's what I had been doing. And I hired a life coach. And she asked me a question that just blew me away and changed the trajectory of my life. She said, "Darcy, if in 10 years you look back on this decision at this moment that you're about to make on what the next chapter is, and you had no regrets, what would you do?" And I was like, really? Oh, if I could do whatever I wanted, and I'd have I'd start my own company. I mean, it came immediate to me. Now, as soon as I said it, and I got all excited, and she's like, "Great, let's figure it out. Let's do it." I'm like, I can't start my own business. I'm the sole breadwinner for a family of 4. I need a paycheck. I need a salary. I need health insurance. I need stability. And all of that, what I call inner trash talk, right? That those saboteurs started telling me all the reasons that I couldn't. And so and then she helped me work through those obstacles, and that trash talk that was saying, you don't have your MBA, you don't know, you're not a business owner, you're not an entrepreneur, all those voices that we have. she helped me work through those obstacles. And so January 2nd, 2013 was my last day in the Senate, and January 3rd, I launched my business full time. And I'm not quite at 10 years yet, just around the corner, but I will say 100%, I have no regrets.
Well, listen, first of all, that question, I think anyone listening right now, you should ask yourselves that question, because I think we all have to really reset that, and just see what the answer would be. And to your point, you will have every single whistle and voice that's going to tell you like, oh my God, that's going to be tough. Well, you can't do this. How are you going to do this? And give you 10,000 reasons why you can't succeed. And then also, if you were to share with maybe close people, they probably say, are you crazy? Your friends and maybe some of your people in your circles will probably not even see you as capable of doing that. In a way, that's actually a good thing. For me, that's a driver. When people say you can't, I'm like, okay, let me show you what I'm going to be able to do here. I'm going to do this. But you did. So, but the good news is you had somebody that was able to guide you a little bit and give you some tips on how to deal with it. Now, a lot of people today may say, well, I don't have your coach, right? Well, that's what we do in the show today, right? We're going to help them get rid of those blocks and hurdles and obstacles that everyone puts around themselves. And I always say this to people, and I do it in social media and even in some of the shows. You are the driver of your life. You can make decisions. Yes. Is it going to be easy? No. Is it going to be hard? Probably at first. You got to work through it, but don't let your dream stop you. And then the other part, a lot of us do jobs that we don't like. We work because we need, to your point, make that paycheck and pay the bills, get insurance. Yeah. But do we really like what we do? That's a question for everybody. You have to ask that question. Is that something, when I wake up in the morning, am I happy to go to work? If you have a regret in the morning to just get up and you can't get up on the actual, bed, that's a problem. So you have to be able to make a move and do whatever is great for you. So what was, I know you said obstacles and you had all these questions. What was the first step you took to change that?
When I launched my business?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I did is I designed an alliance with my family, and I told my husband, if I'm going to do this, he was a full-time stay-at-home dad. He took care of everything on the home front, from the groceries and cooking and laundry to haircuts, dentist appointments, Girl Scout cookies. And so I said, the majority of small businesses fail within the first 2 years. And so I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in so that we hopefully can continue to pay our mortgage and our health insurance and all these things. And he agreed. And so that was one of the first things I had to do, is make sure I had a solid foundation on that front to be able to launch my business. And the great news is I 2 years in, I was flourishing to the point where I had more work than I could do. And then I had a different problem. I was overwhelmed and over functioning, ended up with adrenal fatigue syndrome. And so I hired a business coach at that point to help me figure out what to do. And I expanded my team. And so in 2015, I expanded and brought on 6 coaches and hired some staff to help. And that released some of the pressure that I was feeling, because I didn't want to decrease my impact. I wanted to keep that, but I knew that the pace I was going was just not sustainable.
Well, Darcy, I mean, two great points here. One is that support system, and that's important, because you have to find a foundation. And when you have a spouse, you have somebody that is there. I mean, you have to be, it's a sacrifice that's going to happen, and someone's going to have to help with that. Whether you're, single, married, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you just need to make sure that you have that system that's going to help you, like whatever it is, your savings, somebody who's got the ability to pay the bills while you're building the business. Because I can tell you, I've been in business as well, and it takes time to build anything, and it's like a roller coaster. You got to take that first, knife, and just go like steep, on an incline, and then it gets smooth from there. But until you get to that top, and then it just tumbles on the other side of the roller coaster, it is tough.
Yeah.
And without the right foundation, it's a problem. Then you're right. You had to either all in. I mean, there's no coming back. There's no giving up on this one. And if you go with the mindset that you're gonna, I'm not sure, is this gonna be, or start having doubts. The key is, it's like a plane, right? It takes off. It's gonna have it's gonna land somewhere. You're gonna have to land. You're in the air. There's nothing you can do. There's no coming back to the airport, right? Same concept here. You got to go up, for it full force, and there's nothing that's going to stop you as long as you have a plan and you have exactly what your vision and the mission is.
Yeah.
And so that's important. So I think, you just highlight that carefully, because you did that. Now, you did state that after 2 years, it turned out to be a little overwhelming. And now that's good. That's a good problem to have in a way, because now business is good. Now you have to scale the business.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it all. I mean, listen, I experience it too sometimes because of the studio and things. If you don't have enough assistance, it gets a little crazy, right? And it's important to get to a point where this is not anymore about small me. This is going to have to expand a little bit, bigger. Now, as long as you financially can afford that. I mean, there's ways to do that correctly, but you did. Again, you had also the skill and smartness to actually hire somebody to guide you. Some people don't like to do that, and they just keep winging it, and it doesn't always work that way. So you want to have some guidance from experts that know the business and that know how to maneuver these obstacles. But you did all the stages correctly. I mean, so and again, coming from me, you do this and you train people, but just listening to you right now on this side, I mean, and people are watching and listening right now, they can see how you went through it, and that could be anybody. I mean, literally any one of us would probably go through those stages if we want to make a difference in our lives. Now, before we get into the details, and then you'll take over all the expertise about the thoughtfully fit concept. The other part is that people are conditioned to work for people, and I see a lot of quotes on these things, and we're talking to millionaires and like you read about successful people, they always refer to this expression whereby you work for people because that's the way the system is designed. But if you want to really make money and be successful, you want to work for yourself. That's always a challenging question. Like most people are conditioned, like to your point, paycheck to paycheck. I need security. But nobody that's really a millionaire is working for someone. I don't know of anyone, and if you know someone, maybe you can give us an insight. But I don't know. But it's usually someone who does start a business, builds a business, and then that business hires people, and it grows from there, or multiplies in multiple ventures and things like that. So that's a key element. Now, this, I think, what I'm talking about may hit right into the topic of today, which is how to get into that mindset. So you've experienced it yourself. Then you started sharing this with people, sharing success with people, how to be better with your business decisions and things like that. So let's talk about that. You are running well. Now you go and you build the concept. This concept, first it was coaching, right? That's all. But he took it to the next level with a particular focus. What was that?
In terms of what my business, with the
Correct.
Thoughtfully Fit model?
Yes.
Yeah.
Originally, it started with you being a coach, right? Consulting?
Yes. Yep. But there are 3 buckets. There's the coaching bucket, individuals and teams, coaching and organizations, and then the consulting bucket. We do organization development, we do team assessments, team retreats, and then the speaking bucket, which is training on communication, conflict, trust, leadership, and then keynote speeches. And so those buckets have been the same. When I scaled, I brought on specifically 6 coaches who could come in and do some coaching and training in order to, relieve the pressure that was on me.
Excellent. And so let's talk about those buckets. And in each and every one of them is unique in a way, right? It's doing a specific, job. For example, coaching teams. That's one thing. Coaching individuals is a little bit different. Now you've experienced that yourself the onset of all your journey, right? And it was fruitful because here you are today. You know,
I almost always have a coach. Yep. And I hire team coaches for my team as well.
But you see, that's important because people may be listening like, well, what's the secret formula? But this is part of it. You're finding people to guide you and as you build. And I think people can use that as a practice. What do you say to that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't think anybody needs to hire a coach, but if you want to supercharge your results, you look at Michael Phelps. He's going to be a talented swimmer no matter what. He's got the drive, the dedication, the physique, the DNA, but he would not have become the most decorated Olympian without a phenomenal coach. So to me, that's one of the reasons I'm always hiring and working with coaches and professionals, is because they help me point out my blind spots and challenge me and help me identify my action items and accountability. Just what I'm doing with my clients as well.
Spoken as a true CEO, because you're right. As a leader, you do take feedback and you do work with other people to soundboard you. And they give you a little bit of like, hey, is this going to, because a lot of people think that you're the helm, you're the lead, and that's it. Your decision is everything. And that people do not give feedback. I mean, good CEOs, good leaders will always get feedback. And is this going to work? Let's test it out. Let's do this. And, you surround yourself with successful people that help you succeed. And it sounds exactly that you're doing exactly everything by the book and beyond. And you teach it, actually, you're writing the book now on how it's done. That's awesome. So let's take it to the thoughtfully fit concept. Mm-hmm. How did that come up?
Yeah.
And what it is exactly. If you can
and what it is. So Thoughtfully Fit is a leadership model that I developed over 5 years of research. And it's a model. I started to notice, I've coached now thousands of hours, hundreds of clients, and started to notice that every client had similar challenges that they brought in to coaching. They all had similar problems, different details, different flavors, different players, but the essence of their challenges were all the same. So I spent 5 years researching and categorizing what are the core problems and the biggest hurdles. And I came up with, there's 6 problems that every client brings into coaching. Thoughtfully Fit is the model that has 6 practices that align with those 6 hurdles. And it's all about being able to handle yourself thoughtfully, no matter the adversity, the conflict, the challenge that you are overcoming. Because I wanted to take the work that I was doing with individual clients where they were getting great success and develop a model that others could use and, write the book on how people could handle themselves thoughtfully and coach themselves through whatever hurdles came their way. So let me pause there because I could go on and on. I'm so excited about this. And see no. Direction you want me to go.
No, that's perfect. Let's break that down. So let's talk about those elements, the 6 elements, and how you took the example from one group and almost multiplied it and duplicated it, and use all those. Because to your point, everybody almost sounds the same. We have the same problems. We got no time. We got this. We're overwhelmed. This. But then there are differences, and to your point, there's some things that happen from one group to the other, from one person to the other, and some circumstances can be personal, can be other things. So let's define those 6, elements to your concept.
Yeah, and so it doesn't matter what industry you're in, doesn't matter what your C-suite or manager or director or stay-at-home parent. There's 6 problems that I found clients have. And so then they align with the practices and principles of being physically fit. And that's what the model was developed after, because I'm a triathlete. I've just finished my 23rd season of doing triathlons. And I noticed and found when I train for triathlons and I practice, they're easier. Not a huge concept, but right. When my clients are training and practicing to handle themselves thoughtfully, when they're blindsided, when they're stressed, when they're overwhelmed, they handle those things easier. Life relationships become easier. And it's not because there isn't still conflict and adversity and challenges. It's because they know how to handle it and they've developed that mental muscle. And that's the core 6 practices of Thoughtfully Fit then are aligned with the principles of physical fitness. So first, do you want me to give what those top 6 hurdles are?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So first hurdle, clients would come in and say, there's so much to do, I can't even think. This is the Thoughtfully Fit practice of stillness, which is being able to quiet the mind. Clients were overwhelmed, over-functioning, overcommitted. Second practice is strength. Strength is all about, clients would come in and say, oh God, Darcy, I'm not handling myself the way I'd like. They would, have a stressful day, drive home, it's traffic. They come in, trip over the shoes, and see that dinner's not ready. And all this negativity would start to spiral inside of them. And they could almost see it happening and be like, I'm not handling myself well. And I'm bringing this stress in, and it's having a negative impact. Strength is about being able to consciously choose how you show up in any situation. And that's sometimes a heavy lift, right? Because you are stressed and it is hard. Third obstacle, clients would come into coaching saying, I feel stuck in a project. They don't know how to move forward, stuck in relationships they were finding challenging. And this is the practice in Thoughtfully Fit of endurance. And endurance is being able to overcome those obstacles to get unstuck, because you can. And imagine if you had a job where you never got stuck, you'd be bored. That's the definition of being a leader, is having challenging situations where you're stuck. And if you have endurance, you can get through those obstacles to get unstuck. Those are 3 of the obstacles, the hurdles that are internal, where we get in our own way. And then there are 3 that are external, in relationship with other people. So that brings us to the 4th hurdle, where clients would come in and say, okay, Darcy, I'd be fine if only somebody else were different. If how can you get my boss to smile when I walk in? How can I get my spouse to put the dishes in the dishwasher? If somebody else would change, then I could be happy. And so that's the practice in the Thoughtfully Fit model of flexibility. Flexibility is being able to stretch, to accept others just as they are, and to recognize that you can't change other people. And so instead of putting all this energy into being angry that they aren't the way you think they should be, or trying to get them to change, you stretch to accept them as they are, and then put energy into the things you can change. That brings us to hurdle number 5. Clients would come in and say, I have relationships that don't work. I'm over-functioning and I'm getting resentful. Or maybe, I am the one that's always acquiescing and saying, oh, it's not a big deal. It's okay. I won't say anything. You lose, the other person wins. Or, you might be the one that's the high D on the disc profile, the dominant, the bully. You win, you get your way, other person loses. Either way, it's not sustainable for the long term. It might work in the short term. And so that's the Thoughtfully Fit practice of balance. And balance is being able to achieve alignment in your relationships. It's being able to balance, what do you want and need with what I want and need, so that we can find the win-win. And then the 6th final obstacle that clients brought into coaching is, Darcy, I react poorly when blindsided. This is the practice of agility, which is being able to respond effectively instead of reacting and having this knee-jerk autopilot reaction. Somebody yells at you and confronts you in a board meeting, and you're triggered, and your default reaction is to yell back. Or maybe your default reaction is to silently stew. We all have a default. When you're thoughtfully fit, you're able to get off of autopilot in order to respond thoughtfully in the moment when you're blindsided.
Wow. Well, those are some serious concepts here. And I'm listening to you, and I'm visualizing all the obstacles here. And maybe if I've experienced any of those, and I think I have, like everybody else, I think we all go through these stages, and we all have a similar, experiences with, in our circles, especially in the business world, and sometimes even in relationships, right? And it could be family, friends, spouse. It could be anything. I mean, and everywhere. But you mentioned the keyword initially when we talked about the 6 stages here, one of them is negativity.
Mhm.
So why is that people tend to have, an incline or toward leaning towards the negativity aspect of things? I mean, a lot of people have that problem. I find it, more common than actually positivity. And it's always good to be positive. And a lot of people, when you're too positive, they look at you like you have three heads. Because it's almost like the default is to be a negative. Everything is like, why? No, we can't. It's bad. Everybody's whining. And everybody's looking at like the worst case scenario versus the best case scenario. So in your experience, and as you do these coachings, I'm sure, especially in business, you get a lot of that. And in even personal, relationship, that's very common. I think even in lifestyle, people just in general, they'd rather look at the bad and just dwell about it versus like, what I can't do. Like you said it, I can't do anything about it. Let's move on. Let's find out what I can do here. What's the best thing I can come out with? So in your expertise and experience and relationships with, all these clients, have you seen a common theme why they are driving the negativity or where it's driven from?
2 words.
Okay.
We're human.
Okay. All right. That's as simple as it gets.
We're human, right? I mean, we're not perfect. We're flawed. We're broken. And it's natural to think the worst case scenario, to catastrophize, to have sabotaging thoughts. Something happens, you get that, that email that's criticizing you, and that first thought is, what an idiot. And right, that's just part of our humanity. And that's in the Thoughtfully Fit model. This isn't about just be positive. This isn't about don't allow those thoughts, because if it's like, say, don't think about a pink elephant. It just happens. It's who we are. And there's a range, there's a continuum. Some people are more negative and more of a victim. Some people, you just exude positivity. There is a continuum. But at the bottom line, at the end of the day, that's just what is part of our DNA. So this is about being able to recognize that negativity, recognize those sabotaging thoughts, and then consciously choose what you're going to do next. So something happens, you get blindsided, you get, triggered, and there's a sabotaging thought. You don't, instead of acting on it, you pause. At the core of Thoughtfully Fit are 3 simple steps that allow you to be able to handle yourself thoughtfully. Pause, think, act. So step 1, you got to pause. You get off of autopilot and you don't have that knee-jerk reaction. That pause gives you a moment to think. And in the think, that's where you're asking yourself some thoughtful questions. One is this thought serving me or sabotaging me? If it's sabotaging you, that's okay, but then don't act on it. Go vent, go for a run, talk to your therapist, journal, whatever you need to do to get rid of and process and think through that thought so that you then can say, okay, now, how do I want to respond? What could I say in this moment that will neutralize this instead of adding fuel to the fire? And then step 3 is to act, so that you don't, on that, negative thought, that sabotaging thought doesn't lead to a sabotaging action.
Wow. Well, it's amazing because hearing you right now, it's almost like it sounds very simple, because it is. But the problem is we are not, exercising this particular concept. I think that's the issue. Because to your point, all we need is take a pause, as you stated, take a deep breath. And we hear this all the time. Take a deep breath, absorb, see what's going on. Like don't overreact. Don't react immediately, right? Because the minute you start thinking, you're going to see everything, the good and the bad and the ugly, and you can evaluate what your next move will be. I mean, I always, relate to martial arts, and that's a very common, piece in martial arts, because you get confronted. So yeah, you can fight, but what's the outcome of the fight? Yes. At the end of the day, it's either going to be hurting somebody, in jail, dead, or something. It's bad outcomes. There's nothing. So the best fight is the one that didn't happen, right? But you get to that point when you realize that, first of all, this guy is insulting me, and all right, what does that mean? it didn't take anything from me. They can say whatever they want. They're not, as long as they didn't touch me physically, I'm not hurt. You know what I mean? So I can walk away. The second stage. Now, remember, now you listen to yourself and you kind of have that discussion. It's happening real time. I mean, this is like split seconds, but now you're like, oh, time out, not worth it. And you take the high road and you just walk away. They might think like you're a loser, whatever. It's okay. It's no big deal. It's not like you don't own the money, right? And I think in the business world, it's the same way. Like, you just, because you're right. I've seen those emails and I've seen people, going crazy on a room, on a meeting. And sometimes it's very hard. Like, I mean, conflict resolution, conflict avoiding, in business is big. I mean, and there's always some when you clash in with other departments, and especially in leadership, meetings, things like that, it gets a little crazier. Sometimes you get people that don't know how to do this and they just launch at you. And you're right. Some people start like, arguing, and it's back and forth. It's not professional, and it doesn't solve the problem. And this leads me to what you mentioned on, I think, the agility piece. Something happens, you have to adjust, you have to adapt, but you have to be also not just like, auto reacting, as you said. You're just like, okay, if they say this, I'm going to say that. No, every situation is different, because sometimes we could be wrong too, right? And again, you have to be aware. I think that's the key concept here, is that people are usually not aware fully of all the different things that they can be capable of. And you said you just finished your triathlon, right? And practice makes perfect. And this is the same thing in life, in business, like we're talking positive and negativity. The more you exercise positivity, the more you get of it. The more you exercise negativity, that's all you're going to get. It's believing, right? The more you do something, your mind makes it real, and you start seeing only those things. And it is amazing, because you're given concepts that are real, we all experience them, but we just don't know how to put them together. So your formula brings that in play. Now, anyone listening to this can probably get the core. I mean, this is just a highlight. Obviously, you take them through the full stages. This is not happening over one session. It takes time. So what does your typical program look like for, let's say, an individual versus a team, for example?
On the coaching front?
On the coaching front.
Yeah. Well, so if someone comes in and says, I want to train and practice to be able to be thoughtfully fit. I want to achieve my goals, whatever it might be. And I want to explore working with one of your coaches. First thing we always do is have an exploratory. They would talk to my coaching coordinator and have a matching call. So the coaching coordinator would say, okay, great. Based on your personality and your style and your interest, I think you'd be great with Mike or Sharon or Ndidi. And then they'd have a free exploratory session where they'd see, is there good chemistry, right? That to me is more important than anything. When you're working with a coach, you have to be able to feel safe and be able to be vulnerable and open. And that is, you don't know if you have a good match and good chemistry until you have that conversation, you feel it. So then once a person says, yes, I'm in, we're moving forward, there's some pre-work there's a pre-questionnaire that goes out that is just wonderfully rich, that you fill out, and it gives you a chance to reflect on your life. Many clients come into that first coaching session saying, wow, I've never thought about those things. And it's deep and it's powerful. So you return that to the coach 48 hours prior to your initial discovery session. That initial discovery session then is where you're really doing two things. One is designing your alliance on how you're going to work together. And you're training your coach on what your personality is that that's going to help you get the most out of coaching, right? Some people are more on the Mother Teresa end. They just want, just hold the space and help me figure out what I want. Other people are more like Mr. T end. I need someone to help, to push me, to ask me the tough questions. And then the other part of that first session is identifying the primary focus areas that you're working on in the coaching. Like at the end of 6 months, all of our coaching contracts start at 6 months. The end of 6 months, if this was the best investment you ever made, what happened? What does success look like? And you identify then, usually it's 3 to 5 primary focus areas that you're working towards, so that you have benchmarks. So at the end of coaching, somebody doesn't say, well, gosh, Darcy, you were really nice and I enjoyed talking to you, but nothing changed in my life, because coaching is all about creating change, positive change. And then that leads into the coaching sessions, which, our firm designs it every other week. You are meeting with your coach. There's unlimited support in between, email, phone, texts. And there's homework at the end of every session. There's action items that, what are you going to do between now and the next session in 2 weeks? And it's incredibly powerful to have somebody who is there as your advocate, your sounding board, your cheerleader, just for you on your journey for, growth and development and to reach your goals.
Wow. Well, first of all, it's amazing. I'm listening to the concept. I mean, it's rich, and by the way, I know there's a quiz that people have to take, and I think it's on. There's a link to it, right, on your website.
Yeah. So thoughtfullyfit.com. There's a free quiz. It's like 2 or 3 minutes. And that, if somebody is interested and says, I want to know of those 6 hurdles, which one's my biggest? Which one is the biggest that I struggle with? That quiz, you take the quiz, it'll tell you which is your biggest hurdle, and then it'll give you some strategies on how to overcome it. And these are all the strategies that are outlined in the book that I wrote. And they're the strategies that I use with coaching clients and that my coaches use with clients. Because the key is, a lot of times people say, I don't know where to start. That's a really simple place to start. Figure out what's your biggest hurdle and start to train for that, to overcome that hurdle with the strategies.
Excellent. Well, people, our viewers and listeners right now, you will have the description and the link, so you can take the quiz, see what's not working and what you'd like to improve on. And, self-development is great. And we always can use a new thing and learn a new thing, right? But you said something when you have that assignment to a coach, right? You have to match basically the right, profile to the right, candidate. Now, I'm sure people are usually reluctant to share in their weaknesses. Not everybody is willing to say, you know what, I think I suck at what I do. People are not as accountable when it comes to themselves to really claim their weaknesses and say, like we all think that we're good. I mean, it's unfortunately, but that's how we all said, right? Our default is like, we don't take criticism. We're not willing to share sometimes people go to therapy and they say all these things to their therapist in confidentiality and all that. But at the end of the day, I think the listeners and anyone in the business world and even in personal, if you want to really make a difference and change, you have to also be willing to share, all the things that are really not working for you or how you're going about things. If you leave things out, you're not going to be able to get the diagnosis correct, right? And I think that goes for like just going to medicine, right? If you go to a doctor and it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm good. Well, they're not going to scan you with x-ray right there. I mean, they got to do lab work, but you can save time if you give them like, key elements of what your problem is. I think that's important. So your experience when the coaches and you guys are devising this particular introductory, meet or whatever you call it. I think it's just an introduction, right? Like there's first
an exploratory session just to see and explore, and then there's that initial discovery session. Once you say, I'm in, let's do this.
All right. So, but that requires that 3 minutes. Well, not 3 minutes. I think they do that whole survey, right? And they will tell you what their strengths, weaknesses, all the stuff, what they want to work on, and then and their personality traits, right? I mean, that's important because to your point, you and I, we can connect. Maybe if we don't have that chemistry, as you mentioned, maybe we're not going to be able to connect, because this is going to be a long-term commitment. I mean, this is a few months' work, worth, right? So I think it's important for that. Now, what are some of the common, not obstacles that people come to you, but like things that, for example, leaders in corporations would want to make as a change in their teams and so on and so forth? Because when they hire you for corporations, for teams, they do. You get to work with global teams or just leaders, like individual leaders.
Absolutely, work with teams all the time.
So what are some of the, I guess, I might just guess, but I would like you to tell us.
Yep.
What are some of the elements that teams usually have as problematic?
Yep. And absolutely. And I'm going to answer that. Can I real quick comment on
Sure.
the premise you made a moment ago? that people find it challenging to talk about their weaknesses. The one thing I will share with you is that if you have the right coach and that chemistry is there and the safety, I'm going to tell you, my clients, they come in, they're craving a safe place to be able to say, this is where I struggle. This is what's hard. This is what I don't know. They're craving that, to like take down the barriers and to be vulnerable. And I guarantee with our clients, 100% confidentiality. We don't share, not only do I not share anything with anybody about our clients, I don't even share who my clients are. So if I run into somebody at the grocery store and they say, hey, Hurricane H told me you're coaching them, I'm like, yep, it's great. But I don't even, so that's one of the things I have found is what makes it powerful is it is a place that they can go there and let that facade down and be real. So I just wanted to highlight that. If that's
important.
All right.
That's important because I think that's a big deal because most people are afraid to show that they're not strong enough or they have weaknesses, especially if you're in a leadership role, whatever, you're invincible, but you're not. I mean, the true you has to come out.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's really the biggest deal because people are not ready sometimes to face that. It's like a fear.
Yes.
You want to face it, but you have to be willing to really let it go. Like, just find someone to talk to. And that's exactly the first step. If you're willing to have other people listen, because now you're seeing a different version of what you're thinking. Yes. What you hear from me is different from what I hear myself saying or doing.
Yeah, it is. So thank you for letting me just share that. And so I can, if you want, I can transition to your question about teams and
please,
team
yes.
coaching. Yeah. So, oftentimes I find when a team leader reaches out to me or a CEO or a department head or an HR leader, the presenting problem is not always the real problem, but oftentimes the presenting problem is something around, we aren't gelling as a team, and that could be all the way from people are holding back, meetings are kind of silent or stale, or all the way to it's dysfunctional to it's toxic. There is conflict active and the 4 toxins are present. And so when I'm doing team coaching, we are digging in to explore. And the first thing we do is a team assessment where everybody is sharing confidentially how they experience the team and what the challenges are, and also what they need and what they think the team needs to be able to flourish, to be high performing. And that assessment, I mirror back and give to the team as the starting point and say, here's the themes of what I've heard your challenges are and what you want. And the first thing that we do is just raise that team awareness. And I have people, and there's all sorts of fun things we do, whether it's virtual or in person, to let people share how much they agree or disagree with the themes of what I heard. And that then becomes the starting point for the engagement. And you asked, what are some of the problems? It's personality differences. Oh my God, my conflict, or my colleague is this visionary, big picture, and they're always up in the clouds. And I just want to know the facts. I want to, do the details and analysis and get some stuff done. And there's this different in personality and style, or maybe you are focused on the process, and you want to make sure all the voices are heard and you're very nurturing, and your colleague is focused on the outcome. Don't care about the process. Let's get it done. And you butt heads because we're different. And that then, if it's not addressed, is what then can create tension and conflict. And what's crazy is the highest performing teams have different styles, right? If you had a team of everybody that was visionary, you might have great ideas, but you'd never get anything done. And so it's being able to figure out, how do you go from tolerating those differences, or accepting those differences to actually seeing those differences as a strength and then designing your team around people's individual strengths.
I love it. And, it's funny because when you said you did the assessment to, with everybody, and I'm pretty sure when you go back to them and say, like, these are all the things, some eyes will go like big, like, what? because I can just see it. I mean, I've seen it actually in real life. And to your point, it's a very big discrepancy between one group to the other and one end to the other. It's almost the whole full spectrum of how people are seeing it. But the key word is team. To your point is, we're not one person. We are different. Everybody has their own unique, things that they bring to the table. It's just how to coordinate all those efforts together. I mean, when you're in sports, as a lot of, training modules and things like that sometimes are made with some sort of a movie clip about sports, and you can see how teams are made and how they really conquer the world and get, these trophies and cups because they work together. And everybody's like, one is fast, one is, basketball, for example, someone doesn't miss a shot. The other ones are good, moving things, defense, offense, you different things. And we can pick any type of scenario of a team. Yeah. It's not one style. There's different styles in that team, and everybody has a piece to deliver. Again, operations in business, right? You got operations and they have different departments, and none of these departments can work individually. They all are relying on each other to actually deliver the work. It doesn't matter what business you're in. So that's a big deal. And I love the fact that you're helping people identify that and really seeing that you can do this. You have all the good ingredients. Now we just have to make it where everybody sees how to connect together without having a conflict. And I think
I was just going to say that's another core problem that teams come in is they're existing in silos. So sales is only looking at sales, and marketing is in operations, and that is creating conflict because they're existing in a vacuum, in a silo, and holistically, then they're not all rowing in the same direction.
Darcy, I think we need another show just to talk about that, because that's something I experience daily. I mean, it's not when I say I experience daily. I mean, I was going to do a show just about that because it's really just the synergies between departments and how it all plays. And sometimes not everybody is at the same frequency. And that's in itself, we can talk about that over and over. And it's a big deal because it creates sometimes challenges. And the bottom line is the bottom line, right? We all are working. When we work for companies, it doesn't matter. There is an objective for the company, and every business is to grow business. You're not in business not to grow whatever it's service, product you're selling. You still got to grow that business. And to do that, you have to improve your processes. Sometimes you live in the past. Many of the companies, they don't improve or catch up with times, and they live in some protocols that they've had a couple of years back. I mean, things move fast in the business world, and you have to really adapt quickly. Agility, adaptability, right? All those things. And you're right. So there's the silo concept. There's the ability not to catch up in the same frequency or speed. I mean, we talked about Hurricane H earlier. That's where it came from. I mean, it came in from me moving and working in a different state where the pace was different. So my pace was higher, and they used to give me the nickname, "Here comes Hurricane." So that's how it started. But that I've seen that in real life, and it's amazing. But you're right. You can, with the help of somebody that's outside, highlight those things. I think that's the problem. We don't want to see it because we're in it. When someone comes from the outside, it's very easy to see. You can sit in a room, with different leaders, and you'd be like, whoa, what the heck? I mean, and I've done consulting, and I've seen that actually in real life. And it's funny because when you sit in those tables and you're like, what the hell's going on here? Right now, obviously, I was doing consulting for a specific job. I wasn't a coach, so I had biases, but it's different. But you still have to deliver. And sometimes you do deliver, even when there's a problem and you have solutions and you give them. What I've noticed, sometimes they don't execute on them. It's like what's the point?
Right.
Listen, I get paid, you get paid. I mean, at the end of the day, you deliver them. Here's your formula. This is the success. This is what you need to do. But whether they apply or not, I mean, you can't push them for it, right? But it's crazy. Now the other piece is conflict of personality or personality conflict, right? I think that if there is one piece that is the biggest in all this, is that because we are not focusing on the business part of it, or like it's just business and we have to work together towards a common goal. I think we take it personal. it's power, trips. It's, this is not for me. Why do I have to do this? Why do I have to listen to this guy or this gal? And that's really what it comes out to. Like, who you think you are to tell me what to do. And I know this business better than you. You can't tell me. And that's what it gets lost. I mean, it's not even reality of things. It's really, what are we doing here? So it's amazing when you are in there and you experiencing this. I mean, you just sit back and just watch.
When I'm doing some team coaching with a team in conflict with different personality styles.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that I'm doing is helping to create a psychologically safe space for these things, for awareness to be raised around those differences. And I'm oftentimes mirroring back what I'm seeing, and I'm reading the emotional field. And so we'll be in a system on, a team coaching session, and I'll say, I'm just noticing that there's a lot of blaming and defensiveness here. What do you guys notice? Right. And they don't want to talk about it. And I'm just naming it, just neutral and matter of fact. I'm noticing blaming and defensiveness in the team here. Well, how do you see it? And they'll kind of look at each other and be like, yeah, this is normal. This is what we do. Okay. How does that serve you? Well, it doesn't. It's awful. I feel like I'm not heard. Okay. So what would it feel like if you were heard? How would this team be different if you didn't have that criticism and blaming and defensiveness so present? And so I'm not with any judgment, just helping the team to raise awareness. And I'm coaching the team as a system, right? I'm not coaching the individual players. I'm coaching the team as a system to identify how do they want to be? What is that ideal state? What's the current state? And then what are the gaps and what do they need to do in order to get to that ideal state? Given the fact that one option is not for people to change their personality. Right?
Well, you said you can't change people. You got to work with them for what they are.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I mean, it's amazing because you're making these analogies, or at least descriptives here, but I'm visualizing them literally from experiences that I've had myself in group trainings and meetings and things like that. And you're right, that's exactly what happens in real life. You have different feelings and but it's not serving the purpose. Like I said, you are the outsider, you're coming in for the sole purpose to make a difference. But what my next question would be, like, when you are doing this, I know there's always some people that are not committed. They're there just because they were told to be there. And so what do you do to actually highlight those people? And again, just, if there's anything you can share with us.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things as I'm designing that alliance up front with the team is I'm asking, are you interested in creating change? Or are you here just to go through the motions? Because I have no judgment. If you're just here to go through the motions, that's fine. But then don't waste your money, right? Do you really want to create change and do you want things to be different? If you do, then let's do this. If you don't, well then fine. Don't hire me. Just keep doing what you're doing, right? So you have to be willing to say, I'm all in. Now, it's one thing to say I'm all in, and then it's another to be in it and to engage and not stonewall or disengage or get fearful. And that's where it's my job to come in and meet the team where they are. I'm not going to go from 0 to 100. I'm going to meet them where they are to be able to move the needle at a pace and in a way that they feel comfortable with. So to me, that's an agreement we have to make up front. The other thing I'll ask, like if I do a lot of relationship coaching. So I might be coaching like 2 vice presidents, or I might be coaching 2 business partners. And on the front end, we will design our alliance, and I'll say, if it's a high conflict, high toxic situation, are you willing to find the solution and the way forward without blame? And usually they'll agree, like, yeah, we can do that. And then when blame enters the system, I'll just notice it. And I'll just say, so I'm just noticing there's a lot of blame here. we agreed up front that you were going to do this without pointing the finger and saying, well, he doesn't do that and she doesn't do that. So how do you want to move forward, given that there's a lot of blame here right now? And again, I'm not judging, I'm just noticing and pointing it out and raising that awareness. And so in that moment, that's almost like a pause. And I'll sit back and say, well, I don't know how to talk about it without blaming them because they're wrong. Okay, thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for being honest. Yeah, this is hard. And then we'll dig in. As if they're willing to name that and be vulnerable enough to say they want to do it right, but they don't know how, great. I can work with that. No problem. It's when they don't, they don't even want to be vulnerable enough to admit that they're blaming. That to me is, that's where it's a different level of challenge. Does that make sense?
It does. As a matter of fact, again, I'm listening to you, and something came to my mind. There's a book, The Oz Principle. It is about accountability, and it lacks a lot in the corporate world. For the most part, people have always a blame. It's always the other guys. It's never us. It's like everybody is wrong and you're right, and that's not always the case. And like the concept really is above the line, below the line. Raise above the line, meaning that you don't have to blame, it's not the others. See what's your conflict there, what's your part of it. And then, and that's a big deal. But I think the other element you mentioned is with all this, you're doing this conflict resolution, you're trying to work with them, no more blame. And even if you identify, you highlight it, but then there is sometimes a sense of fear of retaliation. Yeah, you're going to leave and everything is going to be good. But now like I have resentment, like, you called me out there. And so does that something that you have to mitigate for in advance? Is that something you plan for also as part of your strategy when you give, some of these, folks guidance?
Well, what we're looking to do is to create a space for that resentment to be revealed. Because when somebody is silently stewing and they're suppressing and they're not speaking their truth, that's when resentment builds. But if I come to you and I'm angry with how you're treating me and I don't say anything for 6 months, you better believe I'm resentful. But if I come to you and I feel like you've disrespected me in a meeting and I say, hey, Hurricane, can we talk? I don't know what was happening on your end, but from my end, I really felt like you were interrupting and talking over me. And I felt disrespected. And I'm not sure if that was your intention, but I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to hear right. And the resentment doesn't build then. And so when I'm working with a team or relationship, we're trying to create the space for people to say what they need to say so that they don't have that urge to retaliate, so that they can just be in a place of curiosity and a vulnerability and sharing what their experience is.
So I'm listening to you, and I have to say, just from this, the way you just broke that down, I can guarantee that when you're part of that crew and you put in this stuff in place, I would be very amazed that the conflict is not resolved and that these people cannot work again as a team. There is no way for it because you are setting them for success and you're really highlighting the real reasons why they're not cooperating and partnering and syncing. And I mean, I'm listening to you, I'm smiling because I know exactly what you're doing, but the way you're doing it is almost like, it's smooth and it's not aggressive. It's very easy. It's not pointing the finger. It's like, hey, but that's the other thing. It's like being able to address that in a way that is like, I can absorb that. I can take it,
Yeah. Because relationships are hard. Of course, there's contempt and stonewalling and anger and resentment. Relationships are hard. Communicating is hard. Saying to somebody, hey, Hurricane, I felt bad when you did that. That's not the norm, right? That is not the norm. So when I come in and work with a team, I am not coming from a place of, let me tell you what you're doing wrong. I'm not coming in from a place of judging. I'm coming in from a place of, let's create a space for some of these things to be revealed so that we can address them. Because none of us are perfect. We're flawed. We're broken. And if we can raise up the compassion and raise up the positivity in that system, right? boy, let me tell you, conflict gets resolved. It's why I love what I do, because we do get to a place where that team is high functioning, where there is trust that is rebuilt, where there is positive communication, where there's healthy conflict and respectful conflict.
Yeah, and people can, listen, we can agree to disagree. It's okay. We don't have to see eye to eye all the time. And, but at the end of the day, as long as it serves the purpose of the company and everything, and it doesn't affect the team morale and all that, that's all that matters. But you're right. I mean, I'm just listening to you and I'm just getting that nice positive vibe that, you know what, it will get resolved. You will highlight to a level where there's no way for us to even question it anymore, because like first of all, we're going to see what's wrong, because sometimes that's the other part. You don't see it. Then we will be identifying who is in the mix, that needs to get a little bit more flexible than, because sometimes it's one person that is literally on the tangent and very extreme and the other one on the other side. So it's all there. So I know we're getting into the time frame here, but I wanted to ask you about your book. So what's the name of the book? Is it Thoughtfully Fit?
Yep. Your training plan for life and business success.
All right. And it's available, of course, on Amazon, the website.
Amazon, Audible. Yeah. Anywhere, you name it.
Okay, good. So it is the same concept. There's nothing additional in there that we haven't covered.
It is Thoughtfully Fit. It's the 6 hurdles. It's the strategies of how to overcome those hurdles. And it's a hybrid leadership book with a memoir of the story of, and I know this is, we're as we're ending, I'm going to throw this big bombshell, but
go for it.
It's through the story of when my husband was arrested 5 years ago for sexual assault of a minor he had met online. He was a full-time stay-at-home dad to our 2 daughters. He was arrested, 50 police cars, SWAT team, media. It was horrendous. He was taken away. He never came home. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison. And the book is my journey and my story, woven throughout, on how I overcame the worst nightmare, the biggest obstacles, the most unbelievable challenge I had ever encountered. I mean, it wasn't even a nightmare. I'd never had a nightmare that bad. And then, sharing how these principles helped me navigate those huge problems and obstacles.
Wow. I mean, that is unbelievable. And it's crazy. Wow.
It was crazy.
I mean, listen, and I'm sure the media, like you mentioned, that's a big deal to deal with. I mean, first of all, listen, you made it, you're doing good. You were able to overcome it. And again, use some of your own, techniques that, you used and practiced and used them on your own case. And, wow. I mean, listen, folks, you're watching, things can happen to any one of us on any given day. And it's how you deal with them, and sometimes having the right tools makes a difference, and having, the ability to deal with them, because some people go crazy, they do stupid things and,
100%.
Drugs, and could be anything, lose their livelihood. Yeah.
We don't control what happens, and there will be more pandemics, cancer diagnosis, layoffs, getting fired, conflict with your neighbor, your colleague. That's certain. We don't control what happens, but we always control what happens next, how we respond to that. And how we respond determines whether we falter or flourish. Period.
Love it. That's what you said. You got to stop, think, and take action.
That's right. Yep.
So
pause, think, act.
It's really, it works for every scenario. You just have to apply that rule, first, before you can start getting crazy, and before you make, rush decisions. Yeah. And you're right. A lot of people, sometimes they don't know how to handle, conflict in life and things. Again, you mentioned pandemic. I mean, the last 2 years have been very, very crazy around the world, and they still are. I mean, we're not even out of this thing yet, but a lot of people, potentially did not know how to deal with it, well enough. And even today, we hear stories all the time. Yeah. And again, any one of us in any given moment, something can happen to us. There's nothing we can do about it. The only thing is how to deal with it after the fact. And when you don't know how to do it, when you don't know how to manage it, that becomes a problem. But you have effective solutions, effective means, and really, I mean, mental agility, as you said, mental thoughtfulness, and fitness is a core element here. I mean, your mind is just as powerful, and it should be trained as it should, and you have to give it enough practice so you can be ready for any calamity that can hit you at any given day. And frankly, we're never going to be 100% like, we think life is secure and we're going to be good. Nothing's going to happen until we're out, but that not necessarily not going to be the case. And the way it looks in this world, it's just going to get probably worse. So just be always ready that you have to handle it better. And to your point, to find the positivity and find a way out. Listen, first of all, thank you for sharing. That's personal, and that's big. And but I think it's a great lesson for us, me, and everybody listening. That what, you might be faced by some serious, element in life, and it's just you got to do better. You got to figure out a way out of it without hurting yourself or your family or your livelihood, whatever. You're still successful. You're still doing it, and you preach and you talk the talk and you walk the walk, as they say, right?
Thank you so much.
So that's truly appreciated. So, well, listen, Darcy, I mean, we've exceeded a little bit the time, but you know what, I had a great time, and you've covered a lot of good angles here, and from the business perspective, and some of these concepts can be applied in life too. And you shared it yourself. I mean, you were a true live example. And, I think for everyone listening, this is great. And, from a business perspective, anyone in business that wants to have some resources, to see, because I know every company will probably need some sort of element of intervention at any given time. We try to do our best as, in leadership, but, or even in any level, actually, that for that matter, because conflict happens all the time. Yes. But, please check out the website, Thoughtfully Fit, and reach out to Darcy. Great resources, great opportunity, and you do this obviously virtual. You have also ability to do in person, I'm assuming.
Absolutely. Just started going back in person, in the last probably month, and now we've got a lot of hybrid. Still doing a lot of virtual, but now as the vaccine and the boosters are starting to take off, more and more people are starting to feel comfortable getting back in person.
And there's no limit in space and regions, right? You can go anywhere.
Absolutely.
Well, I mean, from a Zoom, we can be all over the world, but I think for personal also, right? And you do this only in the US, or you have, potential clients?
My business is focused in the US. Yep.
If somebody from Canada, other places has any, opportunity, would that be open?
Yes, I love Canada.
Well, the reason
I love to travel. I mean, that's not a problem. We just have focused our marketing and our outreach primarily in the US.
And the only reason I'm asking, because we have audiences from all over the world. So some places, in some countries, some people may be like, hey, 100%. I would like to learn more. So
yeah. And I do a lot of individual coaching with people all over the world. I mean, by virtual I've got clients all in Europe, all over. So 100%. And that's one of the things with COVID that has expanded, just because the reality is people are more comfortable doing virtual.
Hey, listen, we're doing this, right?
That's right. We're doing this.
It's working, right? So, but yeah, I mean, thank you, because again, I just like to highlight for everybody that the opportunity is available. So it's not limited. And, again, the purpose is really to share resources with people. And this is a great resource. So thank you for being out there, for doing what you're doing. And, also for really enlightening, people's lives, because I think that changes, if you're happy at work, if you're happy in person, you're just a better person. And that's the bottom line. So we want people to be healthier physically, mentally, and spiritually. So thank you for that.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. You are so your curiosity and connection and presence are phenomenal in your energy. So thank you for having me.
Coming from you, Darcy, I'll take it. So thank you. Well, I just before we part, can you just give us a couple of words of wisdom that, just want to leave people with?
Absolutely. I mean, right now I'll say, just like if you want to have a strong physical core, you're not going to do 20 sit-ups once a month. You have to train and practice and be consistent. So right now, when you're done listening, I guarantee that your day will present you an opportunity to practice engaging your thoughtfully fit core. So when that person cuts you off, in the parking lot, when you get that email, I want you to right now today, pause, practice the pause. And then think, give yourself the chance to ask yourself, okay, what do I control here? What are my choices? How do I want to show up in this moment? And then act thoughtfully. And the more you do that, the more that becomes your new autopilot, and that mental muscle and you being able to choose how you show up and to show up thoughtfully, the easier that gets.
That's it. That's the advice of the day. And I think that's advice for life. For anyone watching, listening, this is, if anything that you will leave with this, and that will be that concept, that will be a great concept to have in life and apply. So Darcy, thank you so much for the time and for everything you gave us here. And the site and the description for the book and everything will be available on the show's description. So folks, thank you for watching, for listening, for tuning always to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. Your host, Hurricane H, here with Darcy. Thank you. And we'll talk soon at the next show, next guest, next topic. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.